Bill 2024, now Affirmative Action Gender Equity Act 2024, duly read the third time and passed.
An act to provide for that the affirmative.
Well, this historic legislation marks a major step forward in the fight for gender equity in Ghana. Now, the Affirmative Action Gender Equity Act 2024, which has been under discussion for several years, was finally passed on July 30th, 2024. That was yesterday. Now, here's a detailed look at what this new law entails and its implications for the future. So as you can see on the screen, we're starting with the historical efforts and the current representation that we actually have. And you realize the representation of the People's Act of 1959 actually allowed for unopposed representation of women in the National Assembly. Now, we also realize that the Women's Manifesto for the Ghana was actually launched in 2004. That was a different document. Now, this was to highlight the need for gender parity in governance and also public life. And despite these efforts, yes, we realized that Ghana's progress was actually slow, because in the 2021 Global Gender Gap Index that was actually conducted by Afrobarometer, Ghana did actually rank 117th out of 156 countries. We also realize that currently the 8th Parliament, which comprises only 14% of women, with local governance elections producing less than 5% of the female representation. Now, taking a look at how this is important, if you actually look at a list at some of the top countries when it comes to Africa, South Africa ranks first when it comes to the gender parity score, followed by Namibia, Rwanda, and Zimbabwe. So, I mean, there's a list. Now, let's look at the purpose of the act that has been passed. Well, to ensure the achievement of gender equality in the political, the social, the economic, and educational and cultural spheres of our society. This is something that is trying to change decades of history and norms, something that has been, turned towards females. So this is to actually try and turn that around. That the implementation of this act and the achievement of the targets shall be progressive and subject to evaluation in accordance with the first schedule. Now, the act also will seek to redress gender imbalances by ensuring that the government promotes policies and programs to redress the political, the social, the economic, and educational gender imbalances when it comes to both the public and the private sectors. Now, if we're looking at the directives of the act, it says that government is going to set progressive targets for the achievement of gender equality. Now, this is going to be in accordance with the international conventions and regional agreements to which Ghana is a signatory. We also look at the fact that government is going to take appropriate measures in the public and private sectors for the full integration of women into all spheres of development, and also a person may apply. As it says, a person would actually may apply to the minister for exemption from the requirements in this act. So if you feel like, okay, I want to be exempted from the requirements, then you could actually apply for it. Now, if it is established that a specific gender is a bona fide occupational qualification requirement for the position in question. Now, looking at the establishment, there's going to be an establishment of a gender equality committee. So the act establishes a gender equality committee, which is going to consist of a chairperson, who definitely is the minister or the representative of the minister. Then there's going to be one representative from each of the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. We also have someone from the Office of the Attorney General, the Public Services Commission, CHRAJ, National Council for Persons with Disabilities, TUC, Ghana Employers Association, some CSOs, and private sector organization. Now, looking at some of the functions of this committee, you're going to realize that they're going to ensure and monitor there's going to be compliance compliance with the act that has actually been passed. We're also going to receive and analyze annual reports on gender equality from organizations and institutions, and also issue certificates of compliance. They're also going to receive complaints of non-compliance with this act and mediate on the complaint. And they're basically going to develop a national plan of action to address, to monitor, and to report on the progress of the implementation of this act. And they would also liaise with government agencies, organizations, and private institutions to promote affirmative action on gender equality in the country. Now, let's look at this going to happen across various sectors. Basically, this is a breakdown of, the bill which is now an act. So it's a breakdown, and these are some sectors that they listed, some of the key sectors. Now, they're looking at gender equality when it comes to governance and decision making in the public service. They're also looking at it in the judiciary because it's key. They're also looking at it in parliament, and they're also looking at it when it comes to political parties and the representation of women. And don't forget, this is a key play, because this leads us to where people get to make key decisions that affect the lives of many people in the country. Now, let's look at the future impact and goals of this. So it says that the act is expected to enhance women's representation and participation when it comes to the decision-making process, like I said. Also, it aims to promote equal engagement when it comes to policy making that is affecting both women and men. And the act will drive constitutional reforms to foster a free and just society. We also had the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, urging MPs to ensure the Act's vision is realized. And he stated, "We need to do more to be able to create this free and just society. We're looking forward to liberate more of our women and to be able to support us to develop Mother Ghana." Now, following this development, we definitely do have joining us on the line, very importantly, a gender advocate and someone who happens to be one of the conveners, Shamima Muslim. Good afternoon. You're welcome to the show, madam.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Well,
so
first off,
I was just a quick one. I was a convener for ALMA, and ALMA was also a member of the Affirmative Action Coalition. Just so we spread the what do you call it, the work.
Okay.
It doesn't look like it's only
Okay, sure.
It was a coalition that led it. Yes, please.
Definitely. I'm sure the coalition was super excited about the verdict being passed yesterday. Now, I want to find out, can you share some of the key challenges you faced in pushing this legislation forward, and how did you overcome them?
So, the major, the first conception of the bill is comes from meetings, international meetings, UN meetings that have called on all member countries to ensure they pass affirmative action legislations to improve women's participation. So the first conceptualizations around the proposed bill for affirmative action, which was also called Equality Bill, was basically focused solely on women, okay? And that was a challenge because the name equality, anytime people hear gender equality, all kinds of misconceptions come to play. And they feel that we are trying to reset our societal norms and values, and the whole debate, men cannot be equal to women. So there's a very deep misunderstanding and lack of knowledge about what gender is and what gender norms are, and the fact that, in fact, gender norms affect both men and women equally. Toxic gender narratives affect males just as toxic gender narratives affect females. Gender stereotypes, negative stereotypes affect, the mental outcomes for male.
Yeah, but how did this mentality create a challenge for you to be able to push for this bill to actually be passed?
Even in Parliament, there were protests with the naming, with the issues. Even amongst members of Parliament, there had to be consistent engagement over long periods. There were lots of amendments. The version we have now is a very watered down version from the original version. They pushed for us to expand marginalizations beyond just women. So in the bill now, affirmative action is not only for women, but it's also for other identifiable groups and issues that the society will feel require representation. So we had to go through all of that. And because of the sensitivity to equality, the bill is now affirmative action bill, gender equity bill, because there was real, There was real opposition to the framing of to the use of the word equality, gender equality bill. So this is how far we have come. And we are happy that at least some compromises have been made. It's a first good start. I mean, no law is perfect, but once the spirit and the vision is clear, we would take it and we will work with it.
Definitely. Now that the act has actually been passed, what do you think are the most crucial steps that the government and other stakeholders need to take to ensure effective implementation and adherence to the law?
Wonderful. So the bill has been passed. It's not yet an act. The president will still need to assent to it first for it to be gazetted, and then it becomes an act which can be operationalized. What we are hoping is that when the bill leaves Parliament and goes to the desk of the president, he will commit agency to it and he will sign it. There are a few bills before him, a few bills that Parliament have passed before him that he has not yet passed. We are hoping he has not yet assented to. We are hoping that he will treat the affirmative action bill with the urgency it requires, also because it's an opportunity for him to redeem his image. A couple of years ago, he was at an international conference in Canada, Women Deliver Conference, when he was asked about the low representation of women in it. He said that Ghanaian women hadn't shown enough dynamism, and if we showed enough dynamism over time, the numbers will increase. It was a big blow to the women's movement because we thought that our president should understand the real barriers to women's effective participation in our political space.
So for you, it's more about if he actually speeds up the process of actually assenting to the bill and then it becoming law. This is also an opportunity for him to redeem his image based on that. But looking beyond he doing that, what are some of the crucial steps that you believe that governments?
Number one, we set up an office of implementation. I propose that the Office of Implementation should be at the presidency to show seriousness in the matter.
Well, we're definitely having some technical challenges, but that has...
Hello?
Okay, hello, yes. Can you please hear me?
Yes. Sorry, I'm on the road. That number one, you need to set up an office of implementation.
Well, we're actually having some communication issues. I mean, definitely the telcos are definitely not favoring us today, but we'll definitely do well and get back in touch. We also will be speaking to somebody else who is very, very particularly interested on this issue, but this is something that has been in and out of Parliament since 2011. It's been very key. They've actually been pushing for it, and somewhere in I think June 14, just this year, they had to actually withdraw it from Parliament and revise some things. And Shemima did mention that they actually had to water it down. it's actually been very, very tough for them to get here. So it's been over 10 years, and this is a joy for them. Well, we have joining us on the line Mr. Owusu Solomon. Good afternoon, sir. You're welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, my sister, and thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. So yesterday, the Affirmative Action Gender Equity Bill which is Act, has now been passed. And I want to find out, I mean, coming from the movement for change, definitely you're looking for change. And we know when it comes to female representation in our political parties, it's something we've been fighting for. We barely get them, especially at the local level. So what is the movement for change planning to do, especially that this act has been passed now, to actually more affect the gender disparity that we have here in the country?
First of all, let me say that yesterday was a glorious day for Ghana's democracy, that at long last the Affirmative Action Bill was passed into law. For almost 11 years, some of us have been advocating that we implemented the constitutional provision as captured in Article 17(2), that there should never be discrimination on the basis of gender. So what happened yesterday was to reaffirm the position of the Constitution. We of the Movement for Change are very happy that it passed. If it had not been passed, Allah's administration would have ensured that it was passed, because we believe that women must have an ample role to play in politics, especially, and also the running of the affairs of the state. And so, with this law passed, it reinforces our position that we would have more and more of our appointments when Ghanaians decide to give the Northwest, which we know they will, to women, and not just women, but women that are qualified to save this country for total men. So it's a happy occasion.
Well, what exactly is the target that the Movement for Change is looking to achieve when it comes to gender equity in the country, and especially the fact that we're in a political season?
So first of all, in the movement, there are two interest groups that are our targets, the youth and women. And our presidential candidate, Visa Lanchomante, has said that 50% of his appointments will be allocated to the youth. And of this 60%, it will be a 50-50. 50% women and 50% men. So we have been clear from day one, and that is why if you look at our movement's activities, most of our functions are led, are women-led. Because we believe that in a country where you have more than 50% of the population being females or women, you cannot. It is just a travesty of justice that when it comes to governance, women are in the minority, which should not be the case. So the movement has always believed that women, if not at all, in the worst case scenario, must constitute 50% of our appointments into various offices.
Can we say, in light of that, I mean, we should look forward to hearing your presidential candidate, declare a female as his running mate?
I mean, he has the power. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but he has always been taking the right decision for the movement. And I believe that, election is also about numbers. And so if you are talking about women constituting 50%, and the senator to go by, I'm sure he will do the right thing, and I will allow him to come with his running mate. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Solomon Owusu. He happens to be the Senior Communications Director when it comes to the Party for Movement for Change. Well, moving away from that, we're looking at, the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament has charged the Ghana Health Service to develop a policy framework to check on approved payments and allowances by hospitals to its staff across the country. Now, at the committee sitting to assess the Auditor's General report on Ghana Health Service, it noted that some health facilities across the country are setting up unapproved schemes such as motivation allowance and paying themselves. Chairman of the committee, James Kluche Avaji, said the situation would cause serious financial stress to the government and therefore charged the Director General of the service, Patrick Kuma Abwaje, to devise a policy to check the problem.
Director General, you see, all the hospitals are developing new things on their own. They'll begin to pay amounts. If it's not checked, it's in future, it will create problem for government. It will create problem for government, big time. So it should be checked now. There should be a policy position on this.
We will work also with the ministry to ensure that probably maybe something that's brewing the entire sector to see how we can curtail. I say we have reviewed and agreed on what is payable and then we have submitted it to finance. But I think we can do more to curtail any new ones popping up.
Yes. And in this case, the total amount involved is 3.6 million to a number of staff involved. So the amount actually is 525,734.69 to staff of selected department of the hospital, which collected a total revenue of 3.7 million. This revenue sharing arrangement was carried out without approval from the Ministry of Finance. So as I said, we should come up with a position before it is too late.
And still on health issues, we're moving more to legal issues now. Ambulance, well, the Attorney General challenged Ato Forson's acquittance, and definitely we heard the story yesterday. So the Minister of Justice and Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame, who seems not happy with the outcome of the ruling by the Courts of Appeal in the ambulance case. Well, they absolved the former Deputy Finance Minister and Minority Leader Kasil Ato Forson, and also Richard Jakba, who were acquitted and discharged. Now, in a press statement, the Attorney General described the verdict by the Court of Appeal as perverse, unfair, and inimical to the fight against abuse of public office. On Tuesday, July 30th, the Court of Appeal acquitted and discharged the Minority Leader, Honorable Kasil Ato Forson, in the ongoing ambulance case. Now, in a 2-1 majority decision on Tuesday, July 30th, 2024, the court held that the prosecution did not establish a prima facie case for the first appellant, Ato Forson, to answer, and hence there was no basis for the court to call Dr. Forson to open his defense. This development has since sparked a wave of reactions across the political landscape. So basically, we're definitely looking at that issue, but he expressed his displeasure by the verdict of the Court of Appeal. And as you can see on the screen, these are a few reactions we gathered from, the Attorney General's reaction that he gave to the verdict yesterday. So, somebody said, what? Good news from the Court of Appeal, acquitting and discharging former Deputy Finance Minister. This was by the former president. And he put this out. But before we come back to looking at the reactions, we definitely have joining us on the line the spokesperson for the Office of the Attorney General, Lawyer Isaac Wilberforce Mensah. We'll definitely be talking to him about this. But still on the graphics and the reactions from the people, the former president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, took to social media and, shared his excitement. He said good news from the Court of Appeal acquitting and discharging former Deputy Finance Minister Kasil Ato Forson in the ambulance case. Well, let's move straight to the telephone lines where we have the office of the spokesperson for the Office of the Attorney General, Lawyer Isaac Wilberforce Mensah. Good afternoon, sir. You're welcome to ABC News.
Good afternoon, and thank you. And a big good afternoon to all your listeners worldwide.
Thank you.
Good job that you're doing there.
Thank you so much. We want to find out, after the ruling, we understand the Attorney General Godfred Dame intends to appeal the verdict, which has been greeted with backlash from high-ranking personalities. Now, what do you have to say on this?
Oh, this is actually the first time I'm hearing that it's been greeted with backlash from high-ranking personalities. I mean, the right of appeal is open to both parties in a trial. So if one party has appealed a ruling and another party decides to appeal the decision of that ruling, why should there be any form of backlash? I think this is the first time I'm hearing this, and it's quite surprising. And I'm wondering who those high-ranking officials are, because it's part of our law. It's part of the right of both prosecution and the accused persons in any trial to appeal. The accused persons have appealed. They got a decision in their favor, and then there's backlash when the prosecution decides to appeal. I don't think it's...
But, I mean, we have the Ghana Bar Association saying that, I mean, they literally describe the comment or the reaction from the Attorney General as needless.
I think the Ghana Bar Association, they had issues with the choice of words, and this is not, as far as I'm concerned, this is not an official communication, properly so-called, coming from the Ghana Bar Association as a unit. To the best of my knowledge, I think it was a statement made by the PRO to the Ghana Bar Association, and that was in respect, I believe, and I stand to be corrected, I believe that the unsettlement or the fact that what he had issues with were the words, because the word used was perverse, and I think that's what some people have gone to town with. Mm-hmm. That why would the Attorney General use the word perverse amongst others? But the word perverse is not the same as pervert too. So people should just take their time and just look at what perverse usually means, especially in this context. Now, if you look at the Oxford Dictionary, for instance, it says perverse, it describes it as in this context as used, contrary to the accepted and expected standard of practice. And it also means unacceptable. So if the Attorney General does not accept the judgment or the outcome of the Court of Appeal decision, and the Attorney General describes him as being perverse, he's simply saying he does not find this acceptable. So how is this a big issue that the Attorney General is being criticized for using an English word which simply means unacceptable? Because if he accepts it in its entirety, he wouldn't give an indication that he's going to appeal. So if the Attorney General has given indication that he's going to appeal, and he says the ruling or the judgment from the Court of Appeal is unacceptable by using the word perverse, how is this a problem? I think people should sometimes just, take emotions out of public discourse and look at words for what they actually mean before coming out to criticize, with the greatest of respect.
Well, we've actually had many who've questioned the integrity of Godfred Dame as the lawyer for the states. Now, we want to find out, how is he going to redeem the lost reputation, especially when many are calling for his resignation?
We are in a country where people, no matter what you do or who you are, people will have different views, different perceptions about you. So the question is, has he done anything wrong under his mandate in the Constitution, his mandate contained in Article 88.5 of the 1992 Constitution? Nobody can say he has done anything wrong. If the prosecution believes a crime has occurred, I'm with the criminal division of the Office of the Attorney General. If the Attorney General or the Office of the Attorney General believes, based on facts that emanated from investigations, believe the crime has occurred, it is our job to prosecute. It is our job to decide whether or not to prosecute in this well, of course, depending on the facts. Now, depending on these facts, the Attorney General and the prosecution, in fact, the prosecution were of their opinion that this is a crime that has occurred, or this action was criminal in nature, and then the prosecution decided to go ahead with the case. So it's up to the Attorney General at this point to decide whether or not to appeal the decision, and he has given indication that he shall appeal the decision. Remember that this is not a unanimous decision. This is a 2-1 decision. Now, this 2-1 decision means that it could have gone either way. It's not, for instance, a Supreme Court decision that would be 4-1 or 5-0, that one would say that it appears that the Attorney General did not have a case at all. Remember that there was one justice on the panel that ruled in favor of the initial ruling at the High Court. Now, the initial ruling at the High Court was a decision made by another Court of Appeal judge. So it wasn't made by a magistrate, it wasn't made by a Circuit Court judge or a High Court judge, with the greatest of respect to all of them. Of course, this decision was made by a Court of Appeal judge. So imagine this Court of Appeal judge was not on the substantive case, but was rather on this same panel. How would the ruling have gone? Of course, it would have gone the other way. So, and also keep in mind that when it comes to submission of no case issues that have come up, even in recent times, look at the Okuni trial, for instance. There was a submission of no case at the High Court. The decision was appealed at the Court of Appeal. Decision even went to the Supreme Court. Even at the Supreme Court, the decision went for further review, and the review went in favor of the Republic. So if a Court of Appeal decision has come, of course, we welcome it, but then it doesn't take away the right of the prosecution to appeal. We can go to the Supreme Court. Even after the Supreme Court, there can be further appeal upon review. So this decision, this whole jubilation amongst others, is subject to the Attorney General's decision on whether or not to appeal the decision further, and the decision of the Supreme Court or any further appellate court's decision. So this is not, this at best can be described as a setback if the Attorney General decides to prosecute and succeeds, decides to appeal and succeeds at the point of appeal. This would have constituted nothing but a setback. That's all.
Definitely. Well, I believe that the setback is something you're planning to work forward. As you said, you're going to still appeal. Thank you so much for your time. That was the office. He's actually the spokesperson for the Office of the Attorney General, lawyer Isaac Wilberforce Mensah. Well, moving on to Zoom, because we have lawyer Kwame Adolfo. He happens to be a constitutional lawyer, and he's also going to touch on the legal implications of this ruling. Good afternoon, sir. You're welcome to ABC News GH.
Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, please, loud and clear. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we want to find out, the case has been marked by allegations of misconduct by the Attorney General. I want to find out, how does this reflect on the integrity of the prosecution and overall fairness to the trial?
Look, let me say good afternoon to you and your listeners and your viewers. The legal system is not intended to be so. But unfortunately, we live in a country where no matter what you do, some people may want to bring in politics. It's everywhere. It's unfortunate that it is, because the legal system is designed to be insulated, so to speak, from politics. But unfortunately, in our part of this world, we just like to bring politics in anything we do or everything we do. So, but then, having said that, as a lawyer, I'm mindful that our first duty is to the court and to make sure that justice is not only served, but it's also seen to be served. Now, the political aspect will continue in Ghana, no matter what we like, whether we like it or not. But you see, the ramification of that is, if it happens to a politician, it means we should just stop it. But if it happens to you and me, then we should let the system. We should let the system run. Do we want to live in a country like that, where you and I will have to face the law, but when it happens to a politician, they will try and bring politics inside or into the matter? Is that what we want? I think the answer is absolutely no. Nobody wants to be seen as above the law. If we are all going to be equal before the law, then let it apply across the board. So my position is that, yes, it is true that people want to draw politics into it. But at the end of the day, we ask ourselves this question: has Ghana suffered a financial loss? If the answer is yes, then who is the person who caused the loss to the state? And the court must deal with that person, irrespective of the person is a politician, a broadcaster, an ordinary lawyer like me, or anybody else. That's my position. I believe that we should just be oblivious of the political aspect and let the law work, which I believe is the way forward.
Well, that is very true. I mean, the law has to work. But we want to find out, as the Attorney General is preparing to appeal the acquittal, what are the potential consequences for the accused and also the broader implications for the fight against corruption in Ghana?
But, you see, let me start by saying, when you have a split decision, like 3-2, 2-1, and 3 judges say they could not agree among themselves, naturally, any lawyer who believes in this case will appeal it. Because if you don't appeal, it means you accepted the split decision as correct. But there are instances where a dissenting opinion turns out to be a majority opinion after you appeal it. And until you appeal it, this is going to stand in our law books forever. And your name will be written there. So it is absolutely imperative that any lawyer on that side will have to appeal it and see and test the law to see whether the 2 got it correct and the 1 got it wrong. I am of the view that we should not be too much concerned with the political notions that people want to say or bring. At the end of the day, if it had happened to you, would you be happy? Or if it had happened to me, would I be happy? Should we just leave it because it involves a politician? I think my answer is no. We should see to the end of this matter. And if this matter goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court forms the view that the decision of the majority of the Court of Appeal is correct, then that is the end of the matter. But we cannot leave it halfway and say that we should let it sit or let it lie simply because the person involved is a politician. That I disagree with.
Well, thank you so much. That is lawyer Kwame Adofo. He's a constitutional lawyer and definitely he's made his point clear. He does not agree with it. I mean, if it happens to a politician, definitely the law must carry out. It shouldn't be different for politicians and different from the normal Ghanaian. But before this, we're actually looking at some of the key graphics to the reaction that we had, I mean, on social media for some key personalities as well. But we're moving on and away from that, still in the issues of court, but then this is taking us to Parliament. We're looking at the appointment of Parliament has rescheduled the vetting of 2 Supreme Court nominees to August 13, following the adjournment of the committee sitting yesterday over a disagreement on the date. Now, the minority refused to participate in the vetting of the 2 nominees over what it described as an illegal and secret meeting called by the vice chairperson of the committee, Patricia Appiagyei, who is the minority leader at Forcing, actually described the actions of the vice chairperson as sinful against the minority and affront against democracy.
Honestly appalled. I'm appalled. You have broken the trust of the NDC minority caucus. And you have committed a number of sins. And I will tell you the sins that you have committed. Your first sin, you unilaterally wrote a letter to the nominees, inviting them for vetting without the input of the appointment committee. That's their first sin. And I have your sins. Sin number 2, all your sins. Your sin number 2, you wrote to the nominees. Certain Wednesday 31st. After informing them that we are waiting, Wednesday 31st without our input. Then number 3, after we met as a committee, your third sin. After we met as a committee and agreed that we will do this vetting before we are recalled so that during the recall we will take them. You unilaterally, again, no, I'm enumerating all the sins that she's committed. A number of sins. And then you inform them that now you have shifted the goalpost from the 31st that we agreed to Tuesday, and going forward you hold it and submit the report to the House. Madam, this is not a banana republic. We cannot joke with this democracy. These are some of the things that we do, and the democracy elsewhere, they lose them. Honestly appalled.
Well, that was from Parliament, some key issues the minority leader stated that moving away from that and to the world of business. Well, the Bank of Ghana has launched a centralized foreign exchange trading platform. The platform will improve oversight for directors and management of bureau and enhance the bank's monitoring and supervision of the operations in compliance with the Foreign Exchange Act, which is 2006 Act 723. Now, and also the Anti-Money Laundering Act, Act 1044, as amended, and other relevant notices and enactments. The bank, in a statement dated 30th July, read. Well, let's move away from that. So we're definitely going to bring you more, but as the week trends on, we'll be seeing more stories on this foreign exchange trading platform that the Bank of Ghana has brought on. Now, moving away to other key stories that we're looking at. We'll be right back. Well, thank you for staying with us. Now we're moving on to some key labor unrest that is happening. So we have the allied health professionals at Korle Bu Hospital to withdraw outpatient services starting August 2nd. Now, this is a very disturbing issue. Well, the Korle Bu chapter of the Ghana Federation of Allied Health Professionals has announced that its members will stop providing outpatient department services from Friday, August 2nd. This decision comes as a result of the hospital's board failure to appoint a director of the Allied Health despite the Federation's request. Now, Dr. Isaku Shiraz, the president of the Federation, stated during a press conference today that members will gradually cease their services to emphasize their demands. If the board does not meet their demands, a nationwide strike will be initiated on August 7th.
We petitioned the board of all the teaching hospitals to give us director of Allied Health, just like what happened in the case of nurses director, the pharmacist director, the physicians director, and so on. Unfortunately, after almost a year, the board seems not to be interested in giving us this request. After several attempts to meet them last week, it did not yield any results. So we have no any other option but to respond to the call by our members to lay down our tools and demand what we actually deserve. What we are going to do is that from tomorrow, we have what we call work to rule. In that case, we are going to work basically based on whatever we have with management. No any additional efforts we put into the work. After which, we will start withdrawing our services gradually. We start with the inpatient withdrawal of our services, where we only work with those who will be in the hospitals, but those coming in will not be taken care of. After which, we will graduate this into almost all the services that we render in the hospital. And by 7th, if nothing happens in Korle Bu, then as a national president, I will definitely engage all other health teaching hospitals in the country, and will go nationwide through a nationwide strike across the whole country. So we're
still on health and still in related matters. The Ministry of Health announced it will be recruiting over 15,000 nurses and midwives effective Monday, August 5th, 2024. Meanwhile, the Rotational Nurses and Midwives Association is demanding for the payment of some 10,646 that is owed to its members by government. Now, according to the association, the government has failed to pay them their allowances for over 12 months. Joining us via Zoom for more reaction on the recruitment and also to pick updates on their delay. Well, he's joining us via call actually. And to pick up updates on their delayed allowance payment is Awudu Razak Isifu, who happens to be the PRO of the association, and Arthur Asante, who is the General Secretary of the Graduate Unemployed Nurses and Midwives Association. Good afternoon, Awudu. You're welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, madam. Thank you.
Well, I want to find out, has there been any new development following your push for the payment of allowances to your members? I mean, the rotational nurses and midwives.
All right. Thank you very much. I extend greetings to all your viewers and listeners. We had, after the press conference on the 17th of this month, the following day that we had an information that the Ministry of Finance have released our financial clearance leading to the payment of our allowance to the Ministry of Health. And our mother association, that is the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwife Association, to confirm that the clearance has been released to the ministry. But the ministry has not yet come out with an official communique indicating that the financial clearance is ready with them.
Yeah, but your mother body has told you that they have received it. Is that it?
The mother body they confirmed from the ministry that it is with the ministry, but we don't know why up to now it has not yet come out.
Okay, but is this the total amount, the 10,646 that you're owed?
Pardon, come again.
Is this the total amount of 10,646 Ghana cedi that you're owed?
That one, our seniors, they took 871 Ghana cedis per month. But in our situation, we don't know how things are going to be due to the recent increment in the various sectors. We don't know whether something has been added, but we don't have the value as it stands since we don't have the official communique from the Ministry of Health.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Razak Audu. He happens to be the PRO, and this basically, he was telling us about the fact that the mother body, which is the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwifery Council, have actually confirmed that they've received payments. But what they don't understand is that the Ministry of Health has actually not put out an official communique. But I mean, if the payment has been received, then this definitely will be settling issues for them, because they've actually been pushing for this amount, and these are allowances that have actually been owed them over a period of 12 months. Well, we'll definitely be talking to Mr. Arthur Asante, and he definitely is the General Secretary. Good afternoon, sir. You're welcome to ABC News GH.
Good afternoon.
Well, we want to find out, from where you stand, do you find government's decision to recruit nurses and welcoming?
Yes, please. First of all, let me extend our greetings and our appreciation to the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, and through them to the President, especially Honorable Okoboy, for his tireless efforts that he has put in place since his resumption to office. And then to the general media for what you've also done for us. You have been carrying our message out through you. The President and the leadership of the country has been able to help to our plea.
Okay, but you said you find this decision to be very welcoming, and give us the reasons why this is the most. I mean, we know it's recruiting and then bringing the people in, but what is most welcoming about it for you?
Oh, it's welcoming because me, for instance, I completed my training college 2020. That was September 2020, almost 4 years now. And I've been in the house. I have to move from one place to other, doing jobs of which I've not been trained for, like riding Okada, engaging in galamsey, engaging in weaving, or other things, making jobs that I'm not trained, or I don't qualify to do them, but I do them for a living. So now that I've been given the opportunity to apply and then get my permanent job of which I was trained for, I'm very pleased of it, and our colleagues are also pleased of it.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I mean, we're glad. We believe since you have extended your gratitude, and definitely the ministry has planned to recruit the nurses. You've been home since 2020, and I mean, this brings you joy because you will be recruited, and that's something you're looking forward to. Thank you so much for joining us.
But before we end with this, I would like to extend this to the through you to GRMA, Miss Perpetua. I've seen a release that she's urging the ministry to withhold with the recruitment of over 15,200. I know we are over 60,000, and some of us came before the others. We will plead with her. We should try to engage the ministry through them to the government to add more of the clearance to the number that we've received, but not to urge them to rather withhold it, because some of us are suffering. We started seeing backdoor posting. We spoke about it, and she did not help us with it. But now that we've given the opportunity, we've seen the release. I don't know either it is authentic or not, but well, she is saying they should withhold the clearance and then add
I believe that is something that will definitely be resolved as you engage with Madam Perpetual and have further conversations in the organization and the body. Thank you so much for joining us, Arthur Asante. Well, moving away from that, we're going to look at, the Vice President, the President actually, His Excellency Dr. His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo actually announced plans by the government to equip MMDAs across the country with earth-moving equipment to carry out road construction. And we're quoting, "We have now a new policy that we're going to implement, which is basically the District Road Improvement Program, DRIP for short. Every district is going to be given a set of road equipment to work on your road. Every district. I'm happy to know that all the equipment that we have ordered has arrived, and every district will get a set, which includes an excavator, a backholder, wheel loaders, compact rollers, and tipper trucks." Now, this statement was made by the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. But today, the launch, as you can see on your screen, the tractors, the excavators and everything was done by the President himself. Well, moving away from that and going straight into sports. Definitely in the heat of sport, Heart of Oak has officially received the keys to their new commercial center, marking a significant milestone for the club. The handover event took place on Tuesday, July 30th, 2024, and was attended by key figures including Togbe Afede the 7th. He also, along with board members Vincent Sowa Odote and Akwesi Ajiman, who happens to be the CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority. Togbe Afede expressed pride in the club's new assets, stating, "This is a demonstration of our commitment to building an infrastructural base for Accra Hearts of Oak." While the finishing of the building is still underway, the completion of the major construction phases has allowed the club to access and utilize the new facility. Away from that, we're going straight into international waters. Well, an arrest warrant has been issued for Liberia's former finance minister Samuel Twe following allegations of involvement in a $500 manual corruption scam. Now, the warrant was issued by City Court in Monrovia, the capital, as part of a criminal case against 5 senior officials from the administration of ex-President George Weah. The officials, including Twe, were indicted for economic sabotage, illegal disbursement and expenditure of public money, criminal conspiracy and other charges. Twe and another former official, Stanley Ford, are still at large with their exact whereabouts unknown. 3 other former officials have been detained in jail. Well, the International Monetary Fund has approved a 4-year extended credit facility arrangement for Ethiopia, providing a loan of $3.4 billion to support the country's economic reforms. This landmark deal marks a significant milestone in Ethiopia's efforts to address macroeconomic imbalances and lay the foundations for private sector-led growth. The IMF's Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva called the agreement a landmark moment for Ethiopia, citing the country's strong commitment to reform. About $1 billion will be released immediately to address Ethiopia's financial needs. This financing package is part of a broader effort by international financial institutions, including the World Bank, to provide Ethiopia with over $10 billion in support. We're moving straight to entertainment. And entertainment, Global Citizen, a leading international advocacy organization, has partnered with Stoneboy's The Livingstone Foundation for its forthcoming Move Africa Ghana campaign. Now, this collaboration aims to support TLF's mission and enable the organization to scale its work across Ghana. The partnership will leverage Global Citizen's advocacy expertise and TLF's local knowledge to drive meaningful impact in areas such as education, healthcare, and community development. By joining forces, Global Citizen and the Livingstone Foundation can drive meaningful change and create a lasting impact in Ghana. My paper is on the floor. Well, that's all we have for you today in the news. Before we go, let's take a look at some of the headlines that we looked at today. Parliament has passed the Affirmative Action Bill yesterday after decades of debate and advocacies. We also have the Attorney General Godfred Dame has challenged the verdict of the Court of Appeals ruling on the controversial ambulance case that saw Kaysel Atufosing and Richard Jakpa freed. We also looked at two Supreme Court nominees by President Akufo-Addo who will be facing the Parliament's Appointment Committee on August 13th, 2024. Also, we looked at government's initiative to support MMDAs with road construction equipment, which was launched today. And also we had, in business, we looked at the Bank of Ghana launching a common foreign platform for exchange trading. And on the international front, an arrest warrant had been issued for Liberia's former Finance Minister Samuel Twe following allegations of involvement in a $500 million corruption scam. These were some of the key stories and other stories that we looked at in today's bulletin. Thank you so much for making time and staying with us. Do enjoy the rest of your afternoon. My name is Epifania Chokotoklikwi. Good afternoon.